In the fog-choked shadows of 1920s London, a locked room hides a deadly secret. Lady Evelyn Ashby is found strangled, clutching a broken locket with a mysterious portrait. Hercule Poirot unravels a web of love, jealousy, and betrayal among her lover, her cousin, and a timid maid. Was it passion, pride, or a hidden affair that led to murder? Every clue points to a killer, but only Poirot can reveal the shocking truth before the locket's secret claims another life. Chapter 1. The Locked Room. The fog draped Belgrave Square in a ghostly veil, muffling the clatter of hooves and the distant cry of a newsboy. Hercule Poirot alighted from his taxi with the precision of a metronome, his patent leather shoes gleaming despite the damp. He adjusted his overcoat, his mustache quivering as he surveyed the imposing facade of Haverford House, its tall windows staring blankly into the mist. A young constable, his face ashen beneath his helmet, hurried forward, saluting awkwardly. "Monsieur Poirot, sir, thank you for coming so quickly," he said, his voice betraying a tremor. It's Lady Evelyn Ashby. She's been found dead in her study. The door was locked from the inside, sir, and no one can make heads or tails of it." Poirot's green eyes flickered with interest like a cat spotting a shadow. "Locked, you say? Très intéressant. Lead me to the scene, if you please." The constable guided him through the grand entrance where a chandelier cast fractured light across a marble foyer. Servants hovered in the shadows, their whispers ceasing as Poirot passed. Up a sweeping staircase, down a corridor lined with ancestral portraits, they reached a heavy oak door. Another constable stood guard, his knuckles white around his truncheon. "Locked when we arrived," the young man confirmed. "The butler heard a scream at midnight, but when he tried the door, it wouldn't budge. We had to break it down." Poirot nodded, his gaze sweeping the splintered frame where the lock had given way. He stepped into the study, and the air seemed to thicken with the weight of tragedy. The room was a testament to wealth and taste, a vast mahogany desk, shelves heavy with leather-bound volumes, and a crystal chandelier that caught the gray morning light. A single window, its heavy bolt rusted and untouched, admitted a sliver of fog-shrouded daylight. At the center of the Persian rug lay Lady Evelyn Ashby, her silk gown pooling like liquid sapphire around her. Her face, once beautiful, was frozen in a rictus of shock, her violet eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. Her right hand clutched a broken locket, its gold heart cracked, its chains snapped and scattered across the rug like fallen stars. Poirot knelt beside her, his gloved fingers hovering over the faint bruises encircling her slender neck, marks so delicate they might have been overlooked by a less discerning eye. Dr. Hargrove, the coroner, rose from his examination, wiping his brow. "Strangulation, I'd wager," he said, gruffly. "But it's queer, Monsieur Poirot. The door was locked, the key found right there on the desk, and the window hasn't been opened in years. No one was in here with her." Poirot's lips curved faintly. "And yet she is dead. The impossible, it intrigues Hercule Poirot. Tell me, who was in the house when this, tragedy occurred?" The constable consulted his notebook. "3 others, sir. Captain Richard Marlowe, her fiancé, was in his guest room. Miss Clara Ashby, her cousin, was in her bedroom upstairs, and Mary Dunn, the maid, was in the servants' quarters. They all claim they heard the scream but saw nothing until we arrived." Poirot's eyes narrowed as he studied the room. The desk was orderly, save for a single overturned inkwell, its contents staining a letter half written in Lady Evelyn's elegant hand. A silver cigarette case lay nearby, unopened. He picked up the locket, noting the jagged edge of its crack and the glint of something inside. A miniature portrait too small to discern without closer inspection. He slipped it into his pocket with a deft movement unnoticed by the others. "The locket," he murmured almost to himself. "It is broken, but it speaks. Why was it torn from her neck? And by whom?" Dr. Hargrove coughed. Could she have done it herself? In a fit of despair, perhaps. Poirot's mustache twitched with disdain. "Non, non, monsieur. The bruises, they are not the work of her own hands. Someone was here, someone who wished her silence. But how in a room locked from within?" He paced the room, his small, neat steps measured, his mind arranging the facts like cards in a game of patience. The fireplace was cold, its grate untouched. The bookshelves bore no sign of disturbance. The window's bolt, rusted and stiff, confirmed the coroner's claim. Yet Poirot's gaze lingered on the scattered links of the locket's chain glinting faintly in the rug's intricate pattern. He turned to the constable. "Summon the household, if you please. I wish to see Captain Marlowe, Miss Ashby, and the maid. The truth, it hides in their words, and Hercule Poirot will find it." As the constable hurried off, Poirot stood alone with the body, his expression unreadable. "Pauvre femme," he whispered. "Your secret, it cost you dearly. But rest assured, Hercule Poirot will uncover it." Chapter 2. The Three Suspects. The drawing-room of Haverford House exuded a somber elegance, its high ceilings and velvet drapes absorbing the muted light of the late morning. A fire crackled in the marble hearth, casting flickering shadows across the faces of the three individuals gathered at Hercule Poirot's request. The air was thick with tension, as if the very walls held their breath, awaiting the unraveling of secrets. Poirot stood at the room's center, his small, fastidious figure commanding attention despite his unassuming stature. His green eyes, sharp as cut emeralds, moved from one suspect to another, noting every twitch, every glance, every unspoken thought. Captain Richard Marlowe, Lady Evelyn Ashby's lover, sat in a high-backed chair, his military posture rigid but betrayed by the restless drumming of his fingers on the armrest. His dark hair was impeccably combed, his jaw clean-shaven, but a faint sheen of perspiration glistened on his brow. He wore a tailored suit, though the knot of his tie was slightly askew, a detail Poirot noted with interest. Marlowe's eyes, a stormy gray, darted toward the door as if he longed to escape the scrutiny of the diminutive detective. Miss Clara Ashby, Evelyn's cousin, perched on the edge of a settee, her posture as unyielding as the corset beneath her severe black dress. Her features were sharp, almost hawk-like, with a pinched mouth that suggested perpetual disapproval. Her hands, folded tightly in her lap, clutched a lace handkerchief, its edges frayed from nervous twisting. Her dark eyes met Poirot's without flinching, but there was a brittleness in her gaze like porcelain on the verge of cracking. Mary Dunn, the maid, stood near the door, her plain gray uniform a stark contrast to the room's opulence. Her round face was pale, her brown eyes wide with a mixture of fear and deference. She clasped her hands before her, fingers knotted, as if to anchor herself against the weight of the moment. Her auburn hair, tucked beneath a starched cap, escaped in wispy curls, lending her an air of vulnerability that Poirot found curiously at odds with her composed demeanor. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice soft yet resonant. "We are gathered to discuss a tragedy most grave, the death of Lady Evelyn Ashby. She was found this morning in her study, strangled, her locket broken in her hand. The door, it was locked from within, the window bolted, yet someone, I believe, was with her at the moment of her death. I wish to hear from each of you what you saw, what you heard, and what you know. The truth, it is like a diamond, flawed perhaps, but unmistakable when held to the light." He turned first to Captain Marlowe, whose fingers stilled abruptly. "Captain, you were Lady Evelyn's fiancé, n'est-ce pas? Tell me of your evening." Marlowe cleared his throat, his voice steady but laced with strain. "I was in my room, Monsieur Poirot, on the second floor. I'd spent the evening writing letters, business correspondence, nothing more. Evelyn and I had dinner together earlier, around 7. She seemed preoccupied, but she wouldn't say why. I retired to my room by 9. At midnight, I heard her scream. I ran to the study, but the door was locked and I couldn't get in. I called for the butler and we broke the door down together. That's when we found her." Poirot tilted his head, his mustache curving slightly. "Preoccupied, you say? In what manner?" Marlowe hesitated, his eyes flickering to the fire. "She was quiet, distracted, kept glancing at her locket, touching it. I thought perhaps she was tired. She'd been planning the wedding, you see, and it was weighing on her." "And you, Captain, you were content with this engagement?" Poirot's tone was mild, but his gaze was piercing. "Of course," Marlowe said quickly, too quickly. "I loved Evelyn. We were to marry next month. I'd have done anything for her." Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. "And the locket, did you know its significance?" Marlowe's jaw tightened. "It was a keepsake, nothing more. She wore it always, said it reminded her of her family." Poirot's eyes lingered on the faint tremor in Marlowe's hand. "Merci, Captain. We shall return to you." He turned to Clara Ashby, whose lips pressed into a thin line. "Mademoiselle Ashby, you are Lady Evelyn's cousin, oui? What can you tell me of last night?" Clara's voice was crisp, each word enunciated with precision. "I was in my bedroom reading. I keep to myself in the evenings. Evelyn and I had little in common lately. I heard her scream at midnight like the others. I came to the study, but the door was already being broken down when I arrived. I saw nothing else." Poirot studied her, noting the rigidity of her posture. "You and Lady Evelyn, you were not close?" Clara's eyes narrowed. "We were family, Monsieur Poirot, but Evelyn was reckless. She squandered her wealth, trusted the wrong people. I tried to advise her, but she was headstrong." "You refer perhaps to Captain Marlowe?" Poirot asked, his tone deceptively casual. Clara's handkerchief twisted tighter. "He was unsuitable. A soldier with no fortune, no prospects. Evelyn deserved better." Poirot's smile was faint. "And the locket, mademoiselle, did it hold meaning for you?" "It was a trinket," Clara said sharply. "Some sentimental nonsense. I paid it no mind." Poirot's gaze held hers for a moment longer before shifting to the maid. "Mademoiselle Dunn, your turn. Where were you when the tragedy occurred?" Mary's voice was barely above a whisper, her eyes fixed on the floor. "In the kitchen, sir, preparing tea trays for the morning. I heard the scream, same as the others, and ran upstairs. The butler was already at the study door trying to get in. I didn't see nothing. Nobody else. Poirot stepped closer, his voice gentle but probing. You were close to Lady Evelyn, no? A maid sees much in a household. Was she troubled, as Captain Marlowe suggests? Mary's cheeks flushed. She was quieter than usual, sir. Kept to her study more. I thought it was the wedding plans, like the captain said. And the locket? Poirot pressed. You cleaned it, perhaps. Noticed its contents. Mary's hands trembled. I polished it sometimes, sir. It had a little picture inside, but I never looked close. It wasn't my place. Poirot stepped back, clasping his hands behind him. Very well. You have all been most cooperative, but I must ask you to remain in the house. The truth, it is not yet clear, but Hercule Poirot will uncover it. As the suspects dispersed, Marlowe with a curt nod, Clara with a stiff glide, Mary with a hurried curtsy, Poirot lingered by the fire, his mind turning over their words. Each had spoken, yet each had withheld something. Marlowe's unease, Clara's bitterness, Mary's fear, they were threads in a tapestry not yet woven. He recalled the locket now in his pocket, its cracked heart concealing a portrait. Whose face did it hold, and why had it been torn from Evelyn's neck? He crossed to a writing desk in the corner where a photograph of Lady Evelyn stood in a silver frame. She was radiant, her violet eyes sparkling, her hand resting on the locket at her throat. Poirot's fingers brushed the frame, his thoughts racing. The locket was no mere trinket. It was a key, a silent witness to a secret that had cost Evelyn her life. A soft knock interrupted his reverie. Inspector Japp entered, his overcoat damp from the fog. Poirot, you've got that look again, he said, half exasperated. What's on your mind? The locket, mon ami, Poirot replied, holding it up. It is broken, yet it speaks. I must know its story, and I must know who in this house feared its truth. Japp frowned. No fingerprints, no signs of a struggle beyond those bruises. The door was locked, the key inside. It's a devil of a puzzle. Oui, but puzzles are made to be solved, Poirot said, his eyes gleaming. Tell me, what do we know of Captain Marlowe's background? Japp flipped open his notebook. Ex-army, served in India. No fortune to speak of, but Evelyn's wealth would have set him up nicely. Word is, they argued about money now and then. She was generous, he was proud. And Miss Ashby, Evelyn's only living relative, stands to inherit the bulk of the estate now. Never married, lives quietly. Bit of a cold fish, if you ask me. And the maid? Mary Dunn's been with the family 5 years. Loyal by all accounts, but nervous as a cat today. Probably just shaken up, Poirot nodded, his mind cataloging each detail. I wish to see the study again, Japp. There is something there, something we have missed. They returned to the study, now silent save for the distant ticking of a grandfather clock. The body had been removed, but the rug still bore the imprint of Evelyn's form. Poirot knelt, examining the scattered links of the locket's chain. One link, caught in the rug's fringe, gleamed faintly. He lifted it with a pair of tweezers, noting a tiny smear of what appeared to be blood. Curieux, he murmured. The chain was not merely broken, it was wrenched with force. This blood, it may belong to the killer. Japp's eyebrows rose. You think the murderer cut themselves? Perhaps, Poirot said, slipping the link into an envelope. Or perhaps Lady Evelyn fought back. We must test this, Japp. He moved to the desk where the overturned inkwell had left a black stain across an unfinished letter. The words were legible, written in Evelyn's flowing script. My dearest, I cannot continue this way. The truth must— The sentence ended abruptly, the pen discarded beside it. Poirot's eyes narrowed. To whom was she writing? And what truth could not be borne? Japp scratched his chin. Could be Marlowe, or someone else entirely, précisément, Poirot said. We must learn more of this household's secrets. The locket, the letter, the locked door, they are pieces of a mosaic, and Hercule Poirot will assemble them. As they left the study, Poirot paused at the door, his gaze lingering on the splintered frame. The lock, he said softly. It was forced from the outside, yet the key was inside. This, Japp, is not a mere detail. It is the heart of the mystery, Japp sighed. You and your mysteries, Poirot. I'll have the blood tested and check on Marlowe's alibi. But mark my words, this case will be the death of me. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Not if Hercule Poirot has anything to say about it, mon ami. As Japp departed to organize his men, Poirot remained in the corridor, his thoughts swirling like the fog outside. Marlowe's agitation, Clara's resentment, Mary's reticence. Each was a clue, a fragment of the truth. The locket with its hidden portrait was the key to unlocking the motive, but whose face did it hold? And why had it been broken in the act of murder? He descended the staircase, his steps deliberate, his mind already forming a plan. He would speak to each suspect again, probing deeper, peeling back the layers of decorum and deceit. The truth, he knew, lay not in what was said, but in what was left unsaid. And Hercule Poirot, with his little gray cells, would leave no silence unexamined. Chapter 3. The Broken Locket. The fog had thickened outside Haverford House, cloaking Belgrave Square in a shroud that seemed to mirror the opacity of the mystery within. Hercule Poirot stood alone in Lady Evelyn Ashby's study, the scene of her tragic end. His small, precise figure dwarfed by the grandeur of the room. The chandelier above cast a soft, prismatic glow, illuminating the mahogany desk, the untouched bookshelves, and the Persian rug where the imprint of Evelyn's body lingered like a ghost. The air was heavy with the scent of old paper and the faintest trace of her perfume, a floral note now tinged with the chill of death. Poirot's gloved hand held the broken locket, retrieved from his pocket with the care of a jeweler examining a rare gem. The gold heart was cracked diagonally, its edges jagged, as if struck with force. The chain, once elegant, lay in fragments across the rug, its links glinting like accusations. He turned the locket over, noting the delicate engraving on its back. EA 1919. 6 years ago, he mused, a year that might hold significance. With a gentle press, he opened the locket, revealing a miniature portrait inside, a man's face, stern and aristocratic with dark eyes and a neatly trimmed beard. It was not Captain Marlowe, nor Poirot suspected Evelyn's late brother as Marlowe had claimed. Curieux, Poirot murmured, his mustache twitching. Who are you, monsieur, and why did you cost her so dearly? He knelt beside the rug, his eyes tracing the scattered links. One, caught in the rug's intricate weave, bore that faint smear of blood he had noted earlier. With tweezers, he lifted it, holding it to the light. The blood was dry, a mere speck, but its presence was a whisper of violence. The chain was not broken by accident, he said softly. It was torn, perhaps in a struggle. But why? To destroy the locket, or to claim it? The desk drew his attention next. The overturned inkwell had left a black stain across the unfinished letter, its words haunting in their abrupt end. My dearest, I cannot continue this way. The truth must— The pen lay discarded, its nib crusted with ink. Poirot's gaze sharpened. The letter was addressed to no one, yet its tone suggested intimacy, urgency. Was it meant for Marlowe, her lover? Or for the man in the locket, a figure from her past? He slipped the letter into an envelope for safekeeping, his mind already cataloging its implications. The window, bolted and rusted, stood resolute against the fog outside. Poirot tested the bolt, confirming its immobility. No one had entered or exited here. The door, its lock splintered from the butler's efforts, had been secure from within, the key found on the desk. A locked room, he mused, yet not impenetrable. The answer lies not in the mechanics, but in the heart. He turned to the fireplace, its grate cold and untouched. A small ormolu clock on the mantel ticked steadily, its hands frozen at 12:03, as if marking the moment of Evelyn's scream. Poirot's eyes narrowed. The scream was heard at midnight, yet the clock, it continues. Did no one stop it in the chaos? He made a mental note to question the butler further. A soft rap at the door interrupted his thoughts. Inspector Japp entered, his face etched with the weariness of a man grappling with the impossible. Poirot, we've got the preliminary report from the coroner. Strangulation, no doubt about it. The bruises on her neck suggest something thin, a cord or wire, perhaps. Could be that chain you're so fond of. Poirot nodded, holding up the locket. This chain, Japp, it is more than a jewel. It is a witness. The blood on this link, have you sent it for analysis? On its way to the lab, Japp confirmed. But what's your angle, Poirot? You think the killer used the chain to do her in? Perhaps, Poirot said, his voice low. The bruises, they are delicate, precise. The chain is strong yet fine, capable of such marks. But the locket itself, why break it? To hide its contents or to ensure it could never be worn again? Japp scratched his chin. You're thinking the portrait's the key. Any idea who it is? Not yet, mon ami, but I shall discover it. The man in this locket, he is central to the motive. We must learn his identity, Japp gestured to the desk. That letter's got me curious, too. The truth must— Sounds like she was about to spill something big. Could be blackmail or a confession. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Précisément. The letter and the locket, they are intertwined. We must also consider the suspect's movements. Each claims to have been elsewhere, yet the scream united them. I wish to speak with the butler. His account of breaking the door may reveal more. They descended to the servants' hall where the butler, Mr. Grayson, awaited. A tall, stooped man with graying hair and a demeanor of quiet dignity, he stood by a polished table, his hands clasped. Monsieur Poirot, he said, bowing slightly. How may I assist you? Tell me, Monsieur Grayson, Poirot began, of the moment you heard Lady Evelyn scream. What did you see? What did you do? Grayson's voice was steady, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of grief. It was just past midnight, sir. I was in the pantry checking the silver. I heard a scream, sharp, terrible, from the study. I ran upstairs at once, calling for Captain Marlowe as I passed his room. He joined me at the study door, which was locked. I tried the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The key wasn't in the lock outside, so I fetched a crowbar from the cellar and we forced the door. That's when we found her. Poor Lady Evelyn. Poirot's gaze was piercing. And the key, where was it? On the desk, sir, near the inkwell. I saw it as soon as we entered. Was anyone else present when you broke the door? Miss Clara arrived just as we got it open. Mary, the maid, was a step behind her. They were both shaken. Sir Poirot nodded, his mind turning over the sequence. And the clock in the study, it was still ticking? Grayson blinked, surprised. Yes, sir, I believe so. I didn't think to stop it. Everything happened so quickly. Merci, Monsieur Grayson, Poirot said, dismissing him. As the butler retreated, Poirot turned to Jap. The clock, it is a small detail, yet it troubles me. Why does it continue when the household is in chaos? And the key on the desk, how convenient, none. Jap frowned. You think someone placed it there? Perhaps, Poirot said, his voice soft. Or perhaps the lock was not as secure as we believe. I must examine it further. They returned to the study where Poirot inspected the splintered doorframe. The lock, though damaged, was a sturdy Yale, its mechanism intact save for the force of the crowbar. He ran his fingers along the frame, pausing at a faint scratch near the bolt. Regardes, Jap, he said, pointing. This mark, it is fresh. Not from the crowbar, but something smaller, finer. A tool perhaps used to manipulate the lock. Jap's eyes widened. You're saying someone tampered with it? It is possible, Poirot said. A skilled hand could lock the door from the outside, leaving the key inside to create the illusion of impossibility. But we must confirm this with a locksmith. Jap jotted a note. I'll get one out here. Anything else? The locket, Poirot said, holding it up once more. I must know its history. Who gave it to Lady Evelyn, and why was it so precious to her? I shall visit her jeweler. Such a piece would not go unnoticed. As Jap departed to arrange the locksmith, Poirot lingered in the study, his thoughts swirling like the fog beyond the window. The Locket's portrait was no mere keepsake. It was a secret, one that had driven someone to murder. Was it Marlowe, enraged by a rival's memory? Clara protecting the family name? Or Mary, hiding knowledge she dared not reveal? Each suspect was a piece in the puzzle, and the locket was the cornerstone. He slipped the locket back into his pocket, his resolve hardening. The truth, it hides in the shadows, he murmured. But Hercule Poirot will bring it to the light. With a final glance at the study, he stepped into the corridor, the ticking of the ormolu clock echoing in his ears. The mystery of the locked room was deepening, but Poirot's little gray cells were already at work, piecing together the fragments of a truth that would not remain hidden for long. Chapter 4. The Lover's Secret. The late morning light filtered through the heavy velvet curtains of Haverford House's library, casting long shadows across the rows of leather-bound volumes. Hercule Poirot stood by a tall window, his small, meticulous figure silhouetted against the fog that still clung to Belgrave Square. The library, with its scent of aged paper and polished wood, was a haven of quiet. Yet the air thrummed with unspoken tension. Captain Richard Marlowe sat across from him at a rosewood table, his military bearing strained by the weight of Poirot's unyielding gaze. The captain's hands, usually steady from years of handling a rifle, fidgeted with a silver cigarette case, its surface catching the dim light. Monsieur Poirot, Marlowe began, his voice tight but polite. I've told you all I know. I was in my room when Evelyn screamed. I loved her. I'd never harm her. Poirot's green eyes, sharp as a falcon's, studied the man's face. Love, Captain Marlowe, is a powerful motive for both devotion and destruction. You say Lady Evelyn was preoccupied last night. But there is more, n'est-ce pas? A secret, perhaps, that troubled her heart. Marlowe's jaw clenched, a muscle twitching beneath his clean-shaven cheek. She was tired, as I said. Wedding plans, the estate. It was a lot for her. She didn't share everything with me. Poirot tilted his head, his mustache curving slightly. And yet, she wore a locket, a most intimate keepsake with the portrait of a man who was not you. You claimed it was her brother, dead these 5 years. But I have made inquiries, Captain. Lady Evelyn's brother was fair-haired, blue-eyed. The man in the locket is dark, bearded. Who is he? Marlowe's fingers stilled on the cigarette case, his gray eyes darkening. You've been poking into her things, have you? His tone was sharp, almost accusatory, but he caught himself, exhaling heavily. I don't know who it is. She never told me. I assumed it was her brother because she said it was a family keepsake. That's all I know. Poirot's smile was thin, devoid of warmth. Assumptions, Captain, are dangerous. The locket was broken, torn from her neck in the moment of her death. If it held no significance, why was it destroyed? Did you perhaps discover its true meaning and confront her? No! Marlowe's voice cracked, his fist striking the table softly. I loved her, Poirot. We were to marry. I didn't care about some old trinket from her past. She was mine. Ours was the future. Poirot leaned forward, his voice soft but relentless. And yet, you speak of her wealth, her estate. You are a man of modest means, Captain. Did her fortune not tempt you? Or perhaps her preoccupation, her distance, as you called it, stirred doubts? Jealousy, it is a poison, no? Marlowe's face flushed, his hands gripping the cigarette case as if it were an anchor. I won't deny we had our rows. She was generous, too generous sometimes, and I'm a proud man. But I never doubted her love. If she was distant, it was because of her cousin Clara always meddling, or that maid Mary whispering in her ear. They filled her head with nonsense. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Nonsense, you say, or truths you did not wish to hear. Tell me, Captain, what did you know of Lady Evelyn's inheritance? Marlowe hesitated, his gaze dropping to the table. It was hers to manage. She had a solicitor, Mr. Wentworth, who handled the details. I knew Clara would inherit if anything happened to Evelyn. She was the only family left. But that's all. I didn't pry. Poirot noted the slight tremor in Marlowe's voice, the way his fingers tightened around the cigarette case. You are a man of action, Captain, trained in discipline. Yet your hands, they betray you. A small cut, I observe, on your left thumb. Recent, oui? Marlowe glanced at his hand, startled, then tucked it into his pocket. It's nothing. Caught it on a nail in my room yesterday. This old house is falling apart. Perhaps, Poirot said, his tone deceptively mild. But blood, it tells a story. The locket's chain, it bore a trace of blood. We shall see if it matches yours. Captain Marlowe's face paled, but he held Poirot's gaze. You're barking up the wrong tree, Poirot. I didn't touch her. I'd have died for her. Poirot stood, adjusting his cuffs with precision. Merci, Captain. You may go, but remain in the house. The truth, it is like a shadow. It follows you even when you turn away. As Marlowe left, his footsteps heavy on the parquet floor, Poirot remained by the window, his mind arranging the conversation's details like pieces of a chessboard. Marlowe's denial was vehement, but his unease was palpable. The cut on his thumb, though small, was a thread worth pulling. and his mention of Clara and Mary, deflection or a clue to deeper tensions. A knock at the door announced Inspector Japp, his overcoat still damp from the fog. "Poirot, you've got that cat who ate the canary look," he said, dropping into a chair. "What did Marlowe tell you?" Poirot recounted the interview, emphasizing the captain's agitation and the cut on his hand. "He claims ignorance of the Locket's portrait, Japp, but I do not believe him. His love for Lady Evelyn was real, perhaps, but love can curdle into rage. We must learn more of this man in the Locket," Japp nodded, flipping open his notebook. "I've got something on that." Spoke to the family solicitor Wentworth by telephone. He says Evelyn bought the locket in 1919 from a jeweler in Bond Street. Custom made with a portrait she provided. Wentworth didn't know the man's identity, but he said Evelyn was secretive about it, even from him. 1919, Poirot mused, recalling the engraving on the locket. A significant year. We must visit this jeweler, Japp. They may recall the commission or the man whose face she chose to carry. Japp scribbled a note. "I've also got the locksmith coming this afternoon to check that study door. That scratch you found, it's got me thinking someone might have jimmied the lock." It is possible," Poirot said, his eyes gleaming. "The locked room, it is not so impenetrable as it seems. But the motive, Japp, it lies with the locket. Marlowe claims it was a family keepsake, yet he falters when pressed. Clara dismisses it as a trinket, Mary as a task she polished. One of them knows more than they admit." Japp rubbed his temples. "This case is a tangle, Poirot. Marlowe's got motive, jealousy, money, take your pick. Clara's got the inheritance, even the maid's acting cagey. Any bets on who's lying?" Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "All of them, mon ami, in their own way. The truth is a mosaic, and we have only a few tiles, but fear not. Hercule Poirot will assemble them." He glanced at the cigarette case Marlowe had left on the table, forgotten in his haste. Poirot picked it up, noting its monogram, RM. Inside, a single cigarette remained alongside a folded scrap of paper. He unfolded it carefully, revealing a note in a hurried scrawl. "Meet me at the usual place, 10 p.m. E." "Voila," Poirot said softly, showing it to Japp. Lady Evelyn, she had plans last night, but with whom and where? Japp's eyes widened. Could be Marlowe, but he said he was in his room by 9. If he's lying. Or if he is not, Poirot interrupted, then someone else was expected. We must trace this usual place, and we must learn who this E truly meant to meet. As Japp pocketed the note for evidence, Poirot's thoughts turned to the locket once more. The portrait, the blood, the broken chain. They were fragments of a story that ended in murder. Marlowe's cut, his denial, his pride, they painted a picture of a man teetering on the edge of control. But was he the only one? Clara's bitterness and Mary's fear were equally potent, each a spark that could ignite a motive. Poirot stepped into the corridor, the cigarette case still in his hand. "Come, Japp," he said. "We have a jeweler to visit, a lock to inspect, and a truth to uncover." The locket, it will not remain silent for long. As they left the library, the fog outside seemed to press closer, as if conspiring to hide the secrets of Haverford House. But Poirot's mind was clear, his little gray cells alight with the challenge. The lover's secret was only the beginning, and he would not rest until the mosaic was complete. Chapter 5. The cousin's motive. The conservatory of Haverford House was a sanctuary of green. its glass walls misted with condensation, trapping the scent of damp earth and blooming orchids. The fog outside pressed against the panes, blurring the world beyond into a gray dream. Hercule Poirot sat on a wicker chair, his polished shoes resting lightly on the tiled floor, his hands folded neatly over his waistcoat. Opposite him, Miss Clara Ashby perched on a cushioned bench, her black dress absorbing the muted light like a shadow. Her sharp features were set in a mask of composure, but her fingers, twisting a lace handkerchief into knots, betrayed a restlessness that Poirot's keen eyes did not miss. "Mademoiselle Ashby," Poirot began, his voice as smooth as the glass surrounding them. "You are, I understand, the cousin of the late Lady Evelyn. A tragic loss, no? But I sense there was no great warmth between you. Tell me, what was the nature of your relationship?" Clara's lips tightened, her dark eyes meeting Poirot's with a defiance that bordered on disdain. "Evelyn and I were family, Monsieur Poirot, but we were not confidants. She was impulsive, extravagant. I preferred a quieter life, one of order and restraint. We did not always see eye to eye." Poirot tilted his head, his mustache curving slightly. "And yet you lived here in her home. A curious arrangement for two so different, non?" Clara's handkerchief twisted tighter, the lace straining. "It was practical. I had no fortune of my own, and Evelyn was generous, too generous perhaps. She insisted I stay, though I often felt like an intruder in her world of parties and suitors." Poirot's gaze softened, but his question was sharp. "Suitors, you say? You disapproved of Captain Marlowe, I think." "Why?" Clara's eyes flashed, a spark of venom breaking her composure. "He was beneath her. A soldier with no name, no wealth, clinging to her fortune like a leech. Evelyn was blind to his motives. I warned her time and again that he sought her money, not her heart. But she was stubborn, headstrong to a fault." Poirot leaned forward, his voice low and probing. "And this warning, mademoiselle, did it cause friction? Did Lady Evelyn resent your counsel?" Clara's posture stiffened, her hands stilling. "We argued, yes. She called me meddlesome, said I didn't understand love. But I understood enough. I saw how Marlowe's eyes lit up when she spoke of her investments, her estate. He was no fool. He knew what her death would mean for him." Poirot's eyebrows rose. "Her death, you say? An interesting choice of words. You are now her heir, are you not? The estate, it passes to you." Clara's face paled, but her voice remained steady. "Yes, I suppose it does. But I didn't want it this way, Monsieur Poirot. I cared for Evelyn in my own manner. I would never have harmed her." Poirot's smile was faint, almost imperceptible. "Caring, mademoiselle, can take many forms. Let us speak of the locket. You called it a trinket, a thing of no importance. Yet it was torn from her neck, broken in the act of her murder. Did you know its contents?" Clara's eyes flickered, a shadow passing over them. "I told you it was sentimental nonsense. She wore it always, but I never asked why. Evelyn was private about such things." "Private, oui," Poirot said, his tone deceptively mild. "Yet you lived in her home, observed her habits. Did you never see the portrait inside? A man, dark-haired, bearded, not her brother, as Captain Marlowe claimed." Clara's fingers resumed their twisting, the handkerchief now a crumpled mass. I may have glimpsed it once when she was cleaning it. I didn't pry. It was her business, not mine." Poirot's gaze held hers, unyielding. "And yet, mademoiselle, you are not a woman who misses much. You watched Captain Marlowe. You watched Lady Evelyn. Did you watch this locket, too? Did it hold a secret you wished to keep buried? Clara's lips parted, then closed, her composure cracking like thin ice. You're insinuating something, Monsieur Poirot, but you're wrong. I had no reason to harm Evelyn. If anyone had motive, it was Marlowe. He was desperate, always talking of their future, but he had nothing without her. Poirot stood pacing slowly before the orchids, their petals trembling in the humid air. Desperation, it is a powerful force, but so is pride, mademoiselle, the pride of a family name perhaps tarnished by a cousin's reckless choices. Did you fear scandal? Or was it the inheritance waiting in the wings? Clara rose, her voice sharp. You go too far, sir. I am no murderer. I loved Evelyn even if we clashed. If you want answers, look to Marlowe's temper or that maid's sneaking ways. They're the ones hiding something. Poirot stopped, his eyes gleaming. Merci, Mademoiselle Ashby. Your candor is most illuminating. You may go, but remain in the house. The truth, it is like a flower. It blooms in its own time. Clara swept from the conservatory, her footsteps echoing on the tiles, leaving Poirot alone with the orchids and his thoughts. Her bitterness toward Marlowe was palpable, but was it born of jealousy, protectiveness, or something darker? Her claim of ignorance about the locket rang hollow. Her sharp eyes missed little, he was certain. Yet her motive, if she had one, remained elusive. Inspector Japp entered, his face flushed from the cold. Poirot, you've been at it again, he said, settling onto the bench Clara had vacated. What's the cousin got to say for herself? Poirot recounted the interview, emphasizing Clara's disdain for Marlowe and her evasiveness about the locket. She is a woman of control, Japp, but her control falters when pressed. She knows more of the locket than she admits, and her resentment of Captain Marlowe, it is not merely personal. There is a deeper wound. Japp flipped open his notebook. Got a report from the jeweler in Bond Street. The locket was commissioned in 1919, as Wentworth said. Custom job, gold, heart-shaped, with a portrait provided by Evelyn herself. The jeweler didn't see the portrait clearly, but he remembers her being particular about the engraving. EA 1919. Said she seemed emotional, almost secretive when she collected it. Poirot's mustache twitched. Emotional, you say? This locket, it was no casual purchase. It held a piece of her heart. We must find this man, Japp. He is the key to her death. Japp nodded. The locksmith's been over the study door. That scratch you spotted. It's from a fine tool, likely a lockpick. Someone could have locked the door from the outside, leaving the key inside to make it look impossible. Takes skill, though skill, Poirot mused, or opportunity. Clara was in the house, as were Marlowe and the maid. Any could have such knowledge or access to someone who does. Japp scratched his chin. Clara's got the motive, inheritance, family pride. But she's no lockpicker, surely. Perhaps not, Poirot said, his eyes distant. But she is observant, calculating. If she wished to protect the Ashby name or secure her future, she might have found a way. We must also consider the note found in Marlowe's cigarette case. Meet me at the usual place, 10 p.m. E. Did Clara know of this meeting? Did she suspect Evelyn's secrets? Japp's eyebrows rose. You think Evelyn was meeting someone else? The man in the locket, maybe? It is possible, Poirot said, pacing before the glass walls. The letter on her desk, my dearest, I cannot continue this way, suggests a conflict, a revelation. Clara claims ignorance, but her eyes, they betray her. She watched Evelyn closely. Perhaps too closely, Jap sighed. This case gets murkier by the minute. I've got men checking Marlowe's alibi and Mary's movements. And that blood on the chain link, it's being tested now. Should have results soon. Poirot nodded, his mind already racing ahead. The blood, the locket, the lockpick. These are threads, Jap, leading to the heart of the mystery. Clara's motive may be inheritance, or it may be pride or fear of scandal. But we must also consider the maid, Mary. Her fear is genuine, yet she too holds something back. He paused, gazing at an orchid, its petals delicate yet resilient. I shall speak to Mademoiselle Dunn next, Jap. She is the quiet one, the observer in the shadows. What she saw or did not see may illuminate the truth. Jap stood, adjusting his coat. Right. I'll chase down the blood results and see if we can trace that note's usual place. You sure you don't want to bet on the killer yet, Poirot? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. A wager, Jap? No, the little gray cells, they do not gamble. They observe, they deduce, they triumph. The truth, it will reveal itself. As Jap departed, Poirot lingered in the conservatory. The orchids a silent audience to his thoughts. Clara's bitterness was a piece of the puzzle, but it was not the whole picture. The locket with its mysterious portrait held the key to Evelyn's heart. And her death. Was Clara protecting a family secret or securing her own future? Or was she, like Marlowe, a player in a deeper game of jealousy and betrayal? Poirot adjusted his lapel, his resolve firm. The cousin's motive, he murmured. It is clear, yet not complete. The locket speaks, and Hercule Poirot listens. He stepped into the corridor, the fog outside a mirror to the mystery within. The truth was close, hidden in the silences of those who remained. And Poirot would not rest until he had uncovered it. Chapter 6. The Maid's Tale. The servants' hall of Haverford House was a stark contrast to the opulence of its upper rooms, its plain walls and scrubbed wooden table speaking of utility rather than grandeur. A single window, small and high, admitted a sliver of fog-dulled light, casting the room in a muted glow. Hercule Poirot sat at the table, his posture impeccable, his gloved hands resting lightly on its surface. Before him stood Mary Dunn, the maid, her gray uniform crisp but her face pale, her brown eyes wide with a nervousness she could not conceal. Her hands, clasped tightly before her, trembled slightly, and her auburn curls, escaping her starched cap, framed a face that seemed to carry the weight of unspoken truths. Mademoiselle Dunn, Poirot began, his voice gentle yet incisive like a surgeon's scalpel. You are the eyes and ears of this house, non. A maid sees much, hears much, even when others think her invisible. I wish to know what you saw, what you heard on the night of Lady Evelyn's death. Mary's gaze dropped to the floor, her fingers knotting tighter. I've told you, sir, I was in the kitchen preparing the morning trays. I heard her scream at midnight, same as the others. I ran upstairs, but the study door was locked, and Mr. Grayson and Captain Marlowe were already there trying to get in. I didn't see nothing. Nobody else. Poirot's green eyes studied her, noting the faint flush creeping up her neck. You are loyal, mademoiselle, and diligent, but loyalty, it can make one silent when one should speak. Lady Evelyn, she was kind to you, oui. You cleaned her locket, polished its gold. Did you ever see what it held? Mary's eyes flicked up, then down again, her voice barely above a whisper. I polished it, yes, sir. Sometimes she'd leave it on her dressing table and I'd clean it with the other jewels. I saw a picture inside once. A man, dark-haired, not the captain. But I never asked about it. It wasn't my place. Poirot leaned forward, his tone soft but relentless. And yet, mademoiselle, your eyes, they see more than you admit. This locket, it was precious to Lady Evelyn, was it not? Did she ever speak of it, or of the man whose face it held? Mary shook her head, her curls trembling. No, sir. She was private about it, kept it close, always wearing it or tucking it away. I thought it was a memory, something from before I came to work here. Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile playing beneath it. A memory, oui. But memories, they can be dangerous. Tell me, Mademoiselle Dunn, what was the mood in this house? Were there tensions, arguments that you overheard? Mary's hands twisted, her knuckles whitening. There were disagreements, sir. Lady Evelyn and Captain Marlowe, they'd argue sometimes in the drawing room or her study. Not loud, but sharp-like. About money mostly, or her spending. He'd get cross, say she was too free with it. And Miss Clara, she'd scold Lady Evelyn too, saying she was reckless, that the captain wasn't right for her. Poirot's eyes gleamed. And Lady Evelyn, how did she respond to these scoldings? She'd laugh it off, sir, or get quiet. She didn't like being told what to do, but lately she was different, nervous-like, kept to her study more, writing letters, looking at that locket. I thought it was the wedding, weighing on her. Poirot nodded, his mind cataloguing her words. And last night, mademoiselle, you were in the kitchen until the scream. Did you see anyone else in the house? Perhaps someone near the study before midnight? Mary's face paled further, her eyes darting to the door as if expecting someone to enter. No, sir. I was downstairs all evening. The kitchen's far from the study. I wouldn't have seen anyone. Poirot's gaze held hers, unyielding yet kind. You are frightened, Mademoiselle Dunn. Why? Is there something you know, something you fear to say? Mary's lips parted, then closed, a tear glistening in the corner of her eye. I don't know nothing, sir, I swear. I loved Lady Evelyn. She was good to me. I don't want to cause trouble. Poirot stood, his small frame radiating authority. Trouble, mademoiselle, is already here. A woman is dead, and the truth, it must be found. If you know something, however small, it may save another from harm. Think on this and speak when you are ready. Mary nodded, her hands trembling as she curtsied. Yes, sir. I'll try. As she hurried from the room, her footsteps soft but hurried, Poirot remained at the table, his thoughts swirling like the fog outside. Mary's fear was genuine, but was it the fear of a witness or something more? Her mention of arguments, of Evelyn's nervousness, added new threads to the tapestry of the case. The locket once again loomed large, a symbol of a past that refused to stay buried. Inspector Japp entered, his boots leaving faint tracks of mud on the clean floor. Poirot, you've got that look again, he said, pulling a chair to the table. What's the maid got to say? Poirot recounted the interview, emphasizing Mary's reticence and her observations of the household's tensions. She is afraid, Japp, and not merely of the murder. She knows something of the locket, though she will not yet speak of it. And her account of the arguments between Evelyn and Marlowe, Evelyn and Clara, suggests a house divided by more than mere opinions. Japp flipped open his notebook, his pencil poised. Got the blood results from that chain link. It's human, all right, but we'll need samples from the suspects to match it. Marlowe's cut on his thumb looks promising, but we can't rule out Clara or Mary yet. Poirot's eyes narrowed. The blood, it is a clue, but not the whole story. Mary's fear, it suggests she saw or heard something she dares not reveal. We must also trace the note from Marlowe's cigarette case. Meet me at the usual place, 10 p.m. E. Was Lady Evelyn meeting someone before her death? And if so, was Mary aware? Jap nodded, jotting a note. I've got men asking around about this usual place. Could be a cafe, a club, or even a private spot. And the jeweler's report, you were right about 1919. Evelyn was emotional when she commissioned the locket. The jeweler said she mentioned a past promise, calm but wouldn't elaborate. A past promise, Poirot murmured, his fingers drumming lightly on the table. The locket, it is not merely a jewel but a vow. We must learn who this man was, Jap. He is the shadow behind this crime. Jap leaned back, his face weary. We've also got the locksmith's final report. The scratch on the study doorframe. It's definitely from a lockpick. Someone locked that door from the outside, leaving the key inside. Takes a steady hand, but it's possible. Could be Marlowe with his military training, or even Clara if she's cleverer than she lets on. Or someone else, Poirot said, his voice soft. Mary, she is timid, but she knows this house, its routines, its secrets. If she saw someone near the study or overheard a plan, her silence protects them. Jap rubbed his temples. This case is a maze, Poirot. Marlowe's got the temper, Clara's got the inheritance, and now the maid's holding back. Any theories? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Theories, Jap? None, not yet, but the locket, the note, the lockpick, they are pieces of a puzzle. Mary's tale, it is incomplete, but it points to a truth. Lady Evelyn was troubled perhaps by this past promise, perhaps by a betrayal. We must find the man in the locket, and we must learn what Mary fears he stood, adjusting his cuffs with precision. I shall return to the study, Jap. There is something there, something overlooked, and I must speak to the butler again. His account of the scream, it may hold a detail we have missed. Jap rose, tucking his notebook away. Right. I'll chase down that usual place and get those blood samples. You sure you don't want to take a stab at the killer, Poirot? Poirot's eyes gleamed. A stab, Jap? No, I prefer to dissect. The truth, it will reveal itself when the time is right. As Jap departed, Poirot lingered in the servants' hall, the faint ticking of a wall clock echoing in the silence. Mary's fear, her half-truths, were like ripples on a pond, hinting at a deeper disturbance. The locket, with its hidden portrait, was the stone that caused those ripples, and Poirot was determined to trace it to its source. He stepped into the corridor, the fog outside a mirror to the mystery within, his little gray cells alight with the challenge of uncovering the maid's unspoken tale. Chapter 7. The Hidden Affair. The fog that cloaked Belgrave Square had begun to thin, revealing the stark outlines of Haverford House's grand facade as Hercule Poirot sat alone in the dining room, a steaming cup of tisane before him. The long mahogany table, polished to a mirror-like sheen, reflected the soft glow of a single candelabrum, its flames flickering like the thoughts in Poirot's mind. The room was silent, save for the distant chime of a clock marking the late afternoon. The events of the day, The broken locket, the locked room, the suspect's guarded words swirled in his consciousness, forming a mosaic that was tantalizingly incomplete. Poirot sipped his tisane, the herbal warmth calming his nerves as his little gray cells worked tirelessly. The locket, with its cracked heart and mysterious portrait, remained the pivot of the mystery. Captain Marlowe's agitation, Clara Ashby's bitterness, and Mary Dunn's fear each pointed to a secret that Lady Evelyn had carried to her grave. But what was it? The note in Marlowe's cigarette case, "Meet me at the usual place, 10 p.m. E. suggested a clandestine rendezvous, and the unfinished letter on Evelyn's desk, "My dearest, I cannot continue this way," hinted at a revelation she could no longer bear. The blood on the locket's chain, the lockpick's scratch on the study door, these were threads in a tapestry of deceit, and Poirot was determined to weave them together. A discreet inquiry to the family solicitor, Mr. Wentworth, had yielded a startling revelation, one that Poirot now turned over in his mind. The portrait in the locket was not of Evelyn's brother, as Marlowe had claimed, nor a random keepsake, as Clara had dismissed. It was Lord Henry Falk, a married nobleman with whom Evelyn had shared a passionate affair in 1919, the year etched on the locket's back. The affair had ended abruptly, shrouded in whispers of scandal, but Evelyn had kept the locket as a private token of that forbidden love. Had Marlowe discovered this secret? Had Clara, protective of the family name, sought to bury it? Or had Mary, the silent observer, known more than she dared admit? Poirot set down his cup, his eyes narrowing as he recalled the blood-smeared link from the locket's chain. "The chain was used to strangle her," he murmured, its link snapping under the force. But why break the locket itself? To hide Lord Falk's face or to destroy the memory it held? A soft knock interrupted his reverie. Inspector Japp entered, his face etched with the fatigue of a long day's investigation. "Poirot, you're brooding again," he said, pulling a chair to the table. "I've got news, though. The blood on that chain link. It's a match for Marlowe's. That cut on his thumb, it's fresh, and the lab confirms it." Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of satisfaction in his green eyes. "Bon, Japp. This is significant. The blood places Captain Marlowe at the scene in the act of violence. But we must be cautious. The blood alone does not prove murder." Japp frowned, flipping open his notebook. "There's more. We traced that note from Marlowe's cigarette case. The usual place seems to be a private room at the Savoy's Tea Lounge. Evelyn was seen there often, alone or with Marlowe, but the staff recall her meeting a man there last month, dark-haired, bearded, older. Sounds like your Lord Falk." Poirot leaned forward, his fingers steepled. "Lord Falk, alive and in London. This changes much, Japp. If Evelyn was meeting him, it explains her preoccupation, her nervousness. Perhaps she wished to end the connection or confront him, and Marlowe, if he knew." Japp nodded. "Marlowe's alibi is shaky. He says he was in his room by 9, but the butler saw him near the study at 10:30 pacing the corridor. Claims he was just restless, but it puts him close to the scene before the scream." "Très intéressant," Poirot said, his voice low. "And the lockpick? Have we learned more?" "The locksmith's certain," Japp replied. "The scratch on the door frame was made by a professional tool, likely a tension wrench. Marlowe's military training could include such skills: sabotage, covert entry, that sort of thing. Clara's too refined for it, and Mary's just a maid, but I suppose anyone could have hired a professional. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Or learned the skill themselves. Mary, she is timid, but she knows this house, its locks, its secrets. Clara, with her pride, might have sought to protect the Ashby name at any cost. But Marlowe, with his temper and his cut hand, he is the most likely, none? Jap rubbed his chin. He's looking good for it, but I don't trust Clara's cold fish act, and Mary's jumpier than a cat in a storm. What's your next move? Poirot stood, adjusting his cuffs with precision. I must see Lord Falk, Jap. If he met Evelyn recently, he may know what troubled her. And I must revisit the study. There is a detail, a small thing that eludes me. The clock, perhaps, or the inkwell. Something is not right. Jap jotted a note. I'll track down Falk. He's got a townhouse in Mayfair, though he keeps a low profile since his wife's scandalized by his past. Anything else? The letter, Poirot said, his voice soft. My dearest, I cannot continue this way. To whom was it addressed? Marlowe? Falk? Or another? We must search Evelyn's papers. There may be more correspondence hidden away. Jap rose, tucking his notebook away. Right. I'll have the study searched again. You're sure you're not ready to pin this on Marlowe? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Pin, Jap? No, I weave. The threads. Marlowe's blood, Falk's shadow, Clara's pride, Mary's fear. They are not yet a complete tapestry. But soon, mon ami, soon. As Jap departed to organize his men, Poirot lingered in the dining room, his gaze fixed on the candelabram's flickering flames. The revelation of Lord Falk's affair with Evelyn cast the locket in a new light. It was not merely a keepsake, but a symbol of a love that had defied convention, and perhaps ignited jealousy. Marlowe's cut hand and his presence near the study were damning. Yet Poirot sensed a deeper complexity. Clara's protective disdain, Mary's trembling silence, each held a piece of the truth. He rose, his steps deliberate as he made his way to the study once more. The room was as he had left it, the rug still bearing the faint imprint of Evelyn's form, the desk stained with ink. He approached the ormolu clock on the mantel, its hands still ticking at 12:03. Why do you continue, mon petit? He murmured. Did no one stop you in the chaos? He examined the desk again, his fingers brushing the overturned inkwell. Beneath it, caught in a crease of the blotter, was a tiny scrap of paper, overlooked in the initial search. He lifted it with tweezers, revealing a single word in Evelyn's hand. Falk. Voilà, Poirot whispered, his heart quickening. The hidden affair, it surfaces at last. He slipped the scrap into an envelope, his mind racing. Evelyn had written Falk's name, perhaps as a reminder, perhaps as a confession. Had she intended to confront him to end their connection? Or had Marlowe, discovering the Locket's secret, acted in a fit of rage? The blood on the chain, the lockpick scratch, the note in the cigarette case, all pointed to Marlowe, yet Poirot's instinct warned him against haste. He stepped into the corridor, the fog outside now a faint haze, as if the truth were beginning to clear. Lord Falk, he murmured, you are the shadow in this tragedy. But whose hand cast you? With a final glance at the study, Poirot resolved to seek out Falk and search Evelyn's papers for further clues. The hidden affair was the heart of the mystery, and Hercule Poirot would not rest until he had uncovered its every secret. Chapter 8. The Reconstruction. The drawing-room of Haverford House was steeped in a somber hush as evening settled over Belgrave Square, the last wisps of fog dissolving into the twilight. The fire in the marble hearth crackled, casting a warm glow across the faces of the three suspects gathered at Hercule Poirot's command: Captain Richard Marlowe, Miss Clara Ashby, and Mary Dunn. Inspector Japp stood by the door, his arms crossed, his expression a mix of skepticism and anticipation. The chandelier above gleamed softly, its crystals refracting light like fragments of truth waiting to be pieced together. Poirot stood at the center of the room, his small, fastidious figure commanding the space with an authority that belied his stature. His green eyes, sharp and unyielding, moved from one suspect to another, reading the tension in their postures, the secrets in their silences. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice clear and measured, "we stand in the shadow of a tragedy most foul, the murder of Lady Evelyn Ashby, found dead in her study, the door locked, the window bolted, her hand clutching a broken locket. The room, it seemed impossible, yet a crime was committed. Hercule Poirot has gathered you here to reconstruct the events of that night, to lay bare the truth that hides among you." Marlowe shifted in his chair, his military bearing strained, his hands gripping the armrests. Clara sat rigidly, her lace handkerchief a crumpled relic in her lap, her dark eyes fixed on Poirot with a mixture of defiance and dread. Mary stood near the back, her maid's uniform pristine but her face pale, her fingers twisting nervously. The air was thick with expectation, as if the room itself awaited the revelation of its secrets. Poirot held up the broken locket, its gold heart catching the firelight. "This locket," he said, "is the key to the mystery." It was torn from Lady Evelyn's neck, its chain used to strangle her, its links snapping under the force. A trace of blood was found on one link. A match, Captain Marlowe, to the cut on your thumb. Marlowe's face reddened, his voice rising. "I told you, Poirot, it's from a nail in my room." "I wasn't in the study when she died." Poirot's smile was thin, unyielding. "Patience, Captain. Let us proceed methodically." The door was locked from the inside, the key found on the desk, yet a scratch on the frame suggests a lockpick was used. Someone locked the door from the outside, creating the illusion of an impossible crime. A clever trick, no? But the locket, it tells a deeper story. He opened the locket, revealing the portrait inside, a dark-haired, bearded man. "This is Lord Henry Falk, with whom Lady Evelyn had an affair in 1919. The locket, engraved with EA 1919, was a token of that love, kept secret even from her fiancé. A note found in Captain Marlowe's cigarette case: meet me at the usual place, 10 p.m. E suggests Evelyn planned a rendezvous, perhaps at the Savoy's Tea Lounge, where she was seen with a man resembling Falk, and a letter unfinished on her desk. My dearest, I cannot continue this way. Hints at a truth she could no longer bear." Clara's lips tightened, her voice sharp. "If you're suggesting Evelyn was unfaithful, you're mistaken, Monsieur Poirot. She was reckless, yes, but she loved Marlowe. That locket was an old memory, nothing more." Poirot's gaze turned to her, piercing. "An old memory, mademoiselle? Yet it was broken in the act of her murder. You who valued the Ashby name, did you know of this affair? Did you fear its scandal?" Clara's handkerchief twisted violently. "I knew nothing of any affair. I warned her about Marlowe, not some ghost from her past. Poirot nodded, then turned to Mary. And you, Mademoiselle Dunn? You polished this locket, saw its portrait. Did you know of Lord Falk? Did you see Lady Evelyn with him or overhear her plans? Mary's eyes widened, a tear escaping. I saw her once, sir, leaving the house late, about a month ago. She didn't say where, but she was wearing the locket, clutching it. I thought it was for the captain, but I never saw no other man. Poirot stepped closer, his voice soft but relentless. And yet you were in the kitchen, far from the study, when the scream came. But you are observant, mademoiselle. Did you see Captain Marlowe near the study before midnight, as the butler claims? Mary's hands trembled, her voice a whisper. I saw him in the corridor, sir, around 10:30. He was pacing, looking angry. I didn't think nothing of it then. Marlowe lunged forward, his face flushed. That's a lie. I was in my room, Poirot. She's mistaken or covering for someone. Japp stepped forward, his hand raised. Easy, Marlowe. Let's hear him out. Poirot clasped his hands behind his back, pacing slowly. Let us reconstruct, mes amis. Lady Evelyn, troubled by her past, wrote a letter, perhaps to Lord Falk, perhaps to Captain Marlowe. She planned a meeting at 10. But something went wrong. At midnight she screamed and was found strangled, the locket broken. The door was locked, but a lockpick was used to create the illusion of impossibility. Captain Marlowe, you were seen near the study at 10:30, and your blood is on the chain. You discovered the locket's secret, Lord Falk's portrait, and in a rage you confronted Evelyn. You tore the locket from her neck, using its chain to strangle her, the link snapping, your thumb cut in the struggle. You locked the door with a pick, leaving the key inside, and fled to your room. Marlowe's face contorted, his voice hoarse. No, I loved her. Yes, I found the locket a week ago, saw the portrait. She admitted it was an old lover, said it was over. I was angry, but I didn't kill her. I was in my room when she screamed. Clara's eyes narrowed. You're lying, Richard. You were always jealous, always pushing her for money. You couldn't stand her past. Mary gasped, stepping back, her hands covering her mouth. Poirot's gaze softened as he looked at her. Mademoiselle Dunn, you saw more, did you not? Speak now and ease your conscience. Mary sobbed, her voice breaking. I heard them arguing, sir, through the study door just before 11. Captain Marlowe was shouting, saying she'd betrayed him. I ran back to the kitchen, scared. I didn't want to get involved. Marlowe collapsed into his chair, his head in his hands. It's true, we argued. I found out about Falk, and I was furious. But I left her alive, I swear. I went to my room and I heard the scream later. Poirot's eyes gleamed, his voice rising. You left her alive, Captain, but not for long. You returned, perhaps consumed by rage. The locket, it was a symbol of her betrayal. You strangled her with its chain, locked the door to confuse us, and played the grieving lover. But the blood, it betrays you. Japp stepped forward, handcuffs in hand. That's enough, Poirot. Marlowe, you're under arrest. Marlowe's voice broke, a desperate confession spilling out. I loved her. But she wouldn't let go of him, of Falk. I confronted her, yes, but I didn't mean to kill her. The chain, it was in my hand, and I lost control. As Japp led Marlowe away, Clara rose, her face pale but composed. He's a monster, she whispered. Evelyn deserved better. Mary wept softly, her hands trembling. Poirot patted her shoulder gently. You did well, mademoiselle. The truth, it is painful but necessary. As the room emptied, Poirot stood alone, the locket still in his hand. The reconstruction was complete, the mosaic assembled. Marlowe's jealousy, fueled by the hidden affair, had driven him to murder. Yet a small doubt lingered in Poirot's mind. A detail, perhaps the clock's ticking or Mary's fear, that felt unresolved. But for now, the truth had surfaced, and justice would follow. Chapter 9. The Aftermath. The twilight had deepened over Haverford House, casting long shadows through the tall windows of the drawing-room where Hercule Poirot stood alone, his small figure framed against the fading light. The fire in the hearth had dwindled to embers, its glow barely touching the ornate furnishings, which now seemed to mourn their mistress in silence. The arrest of Captain Richard Marlowe had sent ripples through the household, yet Poirot's mind, ever restless, lingered on the edges of the mystery, probing for any loose thread that might unravel his carefully woven solution. He held the broken locket in his gloved hand, its cracked heart glinting faintly as he turned it over. The portrait of Lord Henry Falk, the man who had once held Evelyn Ashby's heart, stared back at him, a silent witness to a love that had sparked jealousy and death. Marlowe's confession, torn from him in the heat of Poirot's accusations, had sealed his fate. The blood on the chain, the lockpick's scratch, the argument overheard by Mary, all pointed to his guilt. Yet Poirot's little gray cells, those tireless sentinels, whispered of something amiss, a detail not fully explained. The door creaked open, and Miss Clara Ashby entered, her black dress a stark silhouette against the room's fading opulence. Her sharp features were composed, but her eyes held a flicker of unease as they met Poirot's. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice low and measured, "you've done what you promised. Marlowe is exposed and Evelyn's death avenged, yet you seem dissatisfied." Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile beneath it. "You are observant, Mademoiselle Ashby. The case, it is resolved. Captain Marlowe's jealousy, his rage at discovering Lord Falk's place in Evelyn's heart, led to her murder. But the mind of Hercule Poirot, it does not rest easily. There is a shadow, a small doubt that lingers. Clara's handkerchief appeared in her hand, though she did not twist it as before. A doubt? What more could there be? He admitted his anger, his confrontation. The blood on the chain was his précisément, Poirot said, pacing slowly before the hearth. The blood, the lockpick, the motive, they align. Yet there are questions. The clock in the study ticking past midnight, why was it not stopped in the chaos? And Mary Dunn, her fear, it was more than shock. She saw something or knew something she did not fully reveal. Clara's lips tightened, her posture stiffening. Mary is a timid girl, easily overwhelmed, and the clock, surely a trivial detail forgotten in the moment. Poirot's eyes gleamed, piercing. Trivial, mademoiselle? Non. In a crime such as this, no detail is trivial. You too have a part in this tapestry. You suspected Evelyn's affair with Lord Falk, did you not? Your disapproval of Marlowe, your concern for the Ashby name. It was not merely about his lack of wealth. Clara's gaze faltered, dropping to the floor. I knew of her past, yes, not the details, but whispers from years ago. Evelyn was reckless even then. I feared her choices would taint our family, but I never wished her harm. I told you I cared for her in my way. Poirot nodded, his voice softening. And your way, mademoiselle, was to protect. The inheritance, it is yours now, but I believe you spoke truly. You did not seek it through murder. Yet you watched, you listened. Did you see Marlowe near the study that night as Mary did? Clara hesitated, her fingers brushing the handkerchief. I was in my room reading, as I said. I heard the scream and came downstairs, but the door was already being broken. I saw Marlowe there, frantic, with the butler. Mary was behind me, trembling. I thought it was grief, not guilt. Poirot's eyes held hers, searching. Grief, oui, but also fear. Mary admitted to hearing Marlowe and Evelyn argue before 11. You, mademoiselle, were upstairs. Did you hear nothing? Clara shook her head, but her hesitation was a crack in her armor. The house is large, Monsieur Poirot. Sounds do not carry so far. I heard nothing until the scream. Poirot stepped closer, his voice gentle but insistent. And yet, you are a woman of precision, of observation. The Locket, the affair, the tensions in this house, you knew more than you have said. If there is a truth you conceal, speak it now. Clara's face paled, but she held her ground. I've told you all I know. Marlowe killed her, driven by his own demons. If Mary saw more, question her, not me. Poirot inclined his head, dismissing her with a gesture. Merci, mademoiselle. You may go, but reflect on this. The truth, it finds its way like water through stone. As Clara left, her footsteps echoing in the silent corridor, Poirot turned to the window, the twilight now a deep indigo. The case was closed, yet his mind refused to settle. He crossed to a side table where a decanter of sherry stood, pouring a small measure to steady his thoughts. The locket, still in his hand, felt heavier than its gold warranted. A burden of secrets that had undone a life. A soft rustle at the door announced Mary Dunn, her face tear-streaked, her apron clutched in trembling hands. She curtsied awkwardly, her voice barely audible. You sent for me, sir? Oui, Mademoiselle Dunn, Poirot said, gesturing to a chair. Sit, please. You have been brave, speaking of the argument you overheard, but there is more, I think, that weighs on you. Tell me, what did you see or fear that night? Mary sank into the chair, her eyes glistening. I was scared, sir. I heard Captain Marlowe shouting at Lady Evelyn like I said about her betraying him. I ran to the kitchen, didn't want to be caught listening. But later, when I went upstairs after the scream, I saw something. Poirot leaned forward, his gaze kind but unyielding. Something, mademoiselle? Or someone? Mary's hands twisted in, her lap, her voice a whisper. It was just a shadow, sir, in the corridor near the study before the scream. I thought it was the captain, but it moved so quick, and then the scream came and I didn't know what to think. I was too scared to say before Poirot's heart quickened, his mind seizing the detail. A shadow, you say? Before the scream, before the door was broken? This is most important, mademoiselle. Was it a man, a woman? Mary shook her head, tears falling. I couldn't tell, sir. It was dark and I was so frightened. I didn't want to cause trouble, not for Lady Evelyn's memory. Poirot patted her hand gently. You have done well, Mademoiselle Dunn. This shadow, it may be nothing, or it may be everything. Rest now, but speak if you recall more. As Mary fled, her sobs echoing softly, Poirot stood, the locket still in his hand. The shadow in the corridor, a new piece in the mosaic, one that Marlowe's confession did not fully explain. Had someone else been near the study, watching, waiting? Or was Mary's fear clouding her memory? He crossed to the hearth, staring into the dying embers. "The affair, the locket, the lockpick," he murmured. "Marlowe is guilty, yet the shadow, it troubles me." He resolved to revisit the study once more to search for any trace of this mysterious presence. The clock's ticking, Mary's shadow, Clara's reticence. These were ripples on the surface of a deeper truth. As the night deepened, Poirot's resolve hardened. The aftermath of the case was not its end, and Hercule Poirot would not rest until every shadow was brought to light. Chapter 10. The Final Piece. The night had draped Haverford House in a velvet hush, its grand halls now silent save for the faint creak of settling wood and the distant ticking of a clock. Hercule Poirot sat in his modest apartment on the other side of London, far from the opulence of Belgrave Square. Yet the mystery of Lady Evelyn Ashby's death clung to him like the fog that had shrouded the city. A single lamp illuminated his desk, casting a warm glow over the broken locket, which lay before him like a relic of a lost era. Its cracked heart and scattered chain links were mute witnesses to a tragedy, but Poirot's little gray cells were far from silent, buzzing with the unresolved threads of the case. He sipped a tisane, its herbal warmth a balm to his restless mind, and reviewed the facts with meticulous care. Captain Richard Marlowe's confession had closed the case for Inspector Japp, the blood on the locket's chain matching Marlowe's cut thumb, the lockpick's scratch on the study door suggesting a staged locked room, the overheard argument fueled by Marlowe's discovery of Lord Henry Falk's portrait in the locket, all pointed to a crime of passion. Yet Mary Dunn's tearful mention of a shadow in the corridor before the midnight scream, and the ormolu clock's relentless ticking at 12:03 gnawed at Poirot's certainty these were not mere details. They were cracks in the mosaic he had so carefully assembled. The locket lay open, Lord Falk's stern face staring up at him. Poirot's inquiries had confirmed the affair. In 1919, Evelyn, young and impulsive, had loved the married nobleman, a liaison that ended in whispers of scandal. The locket, commissioned that year, was her private shrine to that love, worn even as she planned her future with Marlowe. Had she clung to Falk's memory, or was she preparing to sever it as her unfinished letter, "My dearest, I cannot continue this way," suggested? The note in Marlowe's cigarette case, "Meet me at the usual place, 10 p.m. E. hinted at a rendezvous, perhaps with Falk at the Savoy's tea lounge. But had Marlowe intercepted her, his jealousy igniting into murder? Poirot's fingers tapped the desk, his eyes narrowing. "The shadow," he murmured. Mary saw a figure in the corridor before the scream. Marlowe was there at 10:30 arguing, but he claims he left her alive. Was there another watching, waiting? He rose, pacing the small room, his polished shoes silent on the rug. The shadow troubled him, a phantom that did not fit Marlowe's confession. Clara Ashby's protective bitterness, her concern for the family name made her a candidate, but her composure and lack of physical evidence, blood, lockpicking skills, cast doubt. Mary, timid and tearful, seemed an unlikely killer, yet her fear suggested knowledge she dared not voice, and Lord Falk himself, had he been in the house, a secret visitor whose presence sparked the fatal confrontation? A knock at the door broke his reverie. Inspector Japp entered, his overcoat dusted with the night's chill, his face weary but eager. "Poirot, you're up late," he said, dropping into a chair. "I've got news, though it might not please you." Lord Falk's been found. He's been in Paris these past 3 weeks, nowhere near London. His valet and hotel records confirm it. Whatever Evelyn was planning with that note, it wasn't a meeting with him. Poirot's mustache twitched, his eyes gleaming. Paris, you say? This is most illuminating, Jap. If Falk was not her rendezvous, then the note, "Meet me at the usual place," was for another. Marlowe, perhaps, or someone yet unknown. Jap flipped open his notebook. There's more. We searched Evelyn's study again, her papers this time. Found a hidden compartment in her desk behind the inkwell. Inside was a letter dated a week ago, addressed to Falk but never sent. It reads, "Henry, I must end this burden. The locket haunts me and Richard grows suspicious. I will tell him all, whatever the cost." Poirot leaned forward, his heart quickening. She intended to confess the affair to Marlowe. This explains her preoccupation, her letter on the desk. But did she tell him before that fatal night? Jap nodded. Marlowe admitted they argued about the locket a week ago. She told him about Falk then. Said it was over, but he didn't believe her. That's what set him off, by his own account. Poirot's fingers drummed the desk. And yet, the shadow. Mary saw someone in the corridor moments before the scream. Marlowe claims he was in his room by 11 after their argument. Who then was this figure? Jap rubbed his temples. Could be Mary's imagination, Poirot. She was scared stiff, seeing things in the dark. Or maybe it was the butler, Grayson, checking the house. Non, Jap, Poirot said, his voice firm. The butler was in the pantry, as he stated. Clara was upstairs, Mary in the kitchen. The shadow, it is real, and it is the final piece. I must return to Haverford House, to the study, to the corridor. There is something we have overlooked, a trace, a mark, a clue. Jap sighed, rising. You're never satisfied, are you? Marlowe's confessed, the evidence fits. What's left to find? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. The truth, mon ami, is like a diamond. It sparkles only when cut perfectly. I must polish this case. The next morning, Poirot stood once more in the study of Haverford House, the early light filtering through the bolted window. The rug, the desk, the ormolu clock, all were as he remembered, yet his eyes sought something new. He paced the corridor outside where Mary had seen the shadow, his gaze scanning the polished floor, the paneled walls. Near the study door, a faint scuff mark caught his attention, barely visible on the dark wood. He knelt, examining it with a magnifying glass. A shoe, perhaps, he murmured, dragged in haste. Not Marlowe's boots, too narrow. He followed the corridor to a narrow staircase leading to the servants' quarters, where another mark, fainter still, marred the banister. Someone moved quickly, he said, and fleeing perhaps, or hiding. Returning to the study, he approached the clock, its hands still ticking at 12:03. He opened its casing, revealing a mechanism untouched by dust. You were not stopped, he said softly. Because no one thought to touch you. But why? A sudden memory flashed. Mary's trembling hands, her fear of causing trouble. Poirot's eyes widened. Mon Dieu, he whispered. The shadow was no phantom. It was Mary. He summoned Jap and Mary to the drawing room, where Clara also waited, her face pale but composed. Mary entered, her eyes red-rimmed, her apron clutched tightly. Poirot's voice was gentle but unyielding. Mademoiselle Dunn, you saw more than a shadow, did you not? You were in the corridor near the study before the scream. You saw Captain Marlowe leave, angry but alive, And you saw something else. Someone else. Mary's knees buckled and she sank into a chair, sobbing. I didn't mean to lie, sir. I was in the corridor bringing linens upstairs. I saw the captain storm out of the study shouting about betrayal. Then I saw Miss Clara coming from the guest wing looking furtive. She went into the study and I hid, scared. Then the scream came and I ran. Clara's face froze, her handkerchief falling to the floor. That's absurd. I was in my room as I told you. Poirot's gaze turned to her, piercing. Non, mademoiselle. The scuff marks in the corridor, the narrow heel, they match your shoes, not Marlowe's. You entered the study after his argument, perhaps to confront Evelyn about Falk, about the scandal threatening your name. You used the Locket's chain, a weapon at hand, and locked the door with a pick to cast suspicion elsewhere. Clara's composure shattered, her voice a hiss. You have no proof. Marlowe confessed. Poirot held up the locket. The blood was Marlowe's from their argument, but the murder was yours. Mary's shadow, the scuff marks, your knowledge of the affair. You acted to protect the Ashby legacy or to secure it. Clara collapsed, her confession spilling out in a torrent. I couldn't let her ruin us. Falk's scandal, her reckless spending, it would have destroyed our name. I begged her to stop, but she wouldn't listen. I didn't mean to kill her. Jap stepped forward, handcuffs ready. That's enough, Miss Ashby. You're under arrest. As Clara was led away, Mary wept, and Poirot stood silent, the locket heavy in his hand. The final piece had fallen into place. Not jealousy, but pride had driven the crime. Later, with Captain Arthur Hastings at his side, sipping tea in his apartment, Poirot reflected, the human heart, mon ami, it is a labyrinth. The locket held love, but also betrayal, and pride cut the deepest wound. Hastings chuckled. Another triumph, Poirot. The locked room, the locket. You've done it again. Poirot's smile was wistful. The truth, Hastings, it is never simple. But Hercule Poirot, he finds it toujours